Hi, I'm Brit Harley, and I'm here to talk to you all today about the Newark News and Story Collaborative. Thank you to the Center for Cooperative Media for inviting me to share about this project today. And a big thank you and shout out to the Geraldine R. Dodge Foundation and the Victoria Foundation for your funding support. The Newark News and Story Collaborative brings together local reporters, media makers, content creators, and city residents to create different types of media to make accessible to residents that honors and acknowledges their information needs. And so for the past year, we've been working on the Newark News and Story Collaborative here in the city of Newark, thinking about ways to fill information gaps that we've learned from the outlier media information gaps assessment of the city. And I also was able to use Groundsource for different levels of SMS engagement to also understand where folks are getting their news and information and what information that they also may need during the pandemic. What we learned from the outlier media report and what was also confirmed in the SMS engagement that we did with Groundsource, the info gap areas that were identified were food security. A lot of folks really needed to know where they can get food. Another thing that came out of that was rental assistance, utilities. Lack of economic opportunities was identified as a challenge. And it still is presenting a challenge here in the city, especially during this pandemic. And another thing that came out of that report was the digital divide and virtual learning. And so over the last several months, in a lot of different capacities, we've been working to think about what ways can we fill these gaps? How are we getting information to folks who most need it, and also it being relevant to their life and lived experience, especially in the pandemic. And the collaborative also trains city residents as reporters. We train them in storytelling, media making, to amplify their lived experience, to also speak to other folks in the community that they are serving. What we learned from our previous resident reporters, they are organizers, they are parents, they work full time, they're essential workers. And so they were able to talk to different residents, their neighbors, their friends, their peers, their network about this pandemic. At the very beginning of this pandemic, we were having reflections from folks trying to understand this virus, this shutdown, these restrictions, these curfews. And then what our winter cohort, we had different stories come out of that cohort. Tia Ryans, who's the founding executive director of NJ Fort House. And Tia, her series, Hiding in Plain Sight, The Neighbors You Never Hear From, tells a story of 6 people in their journey of reentry back into society and what that has been like for them. The collaborative exists not only to think about ways to fill these information gaps that are identified by city residents here, but also to be thinking about and creating new ways in which we tell stories. How do we tell stories with care? And how do we give people the tools who are on the front lines and sharing information and serving people and advocating tirelessly, passionately for their community, for these people? How do we give them the tools for them to tell their stories? And so that is the work that we've been able to do through the Newark News and Story Collaborative with our Story Lab. In addition to that, we also, with Free Press and Chalkbeat Newark, was able to talk to young people. And so we wanted to create an opportunity for them to reflect, for them to share recommendations, for them to share their ideas, their concerns, and to really center their voice in all of this. I really love doing this work. I've been a Newark resident for the last 30 years of my life. My family still lives in the South Ward, the first house that my grandparents brought. But here we are about 2 years later, not just inside of meeting the need here in the community, but also bringing resources and tools to people, meeting folks where they are in these communities, to be able to tell their own stories. And I think that that is the most powerful part about this work. Positioning those who are on the front lines, advocating for people every day, who are from this community, who understands this community, and has a commitment to listening to this community, to be able to tell the stories of this community and with this community. And so if you would like to learn more about this project, or if you would like to hear more local stories, or just to learn more about the people who have been a part of this project, shoot me an email. I'm Brit@NewarkStories.com. And you can also visit www.newarkstories.com. Thank you so much again. And it's truly an honor to do this work. And I'm so happy and grateful that I had the opportunity to share with you all today.